Hello, my lovely. So I am Rin, and normally I say welcome to whatever channel I am doing a video for, but I'm thinking about cross-posting this on more than one of my YouTube channels because I'm just not sure where it would fit the best. So what we're doing in today's video is I'm doing a little reading about an event that I had happen, I think it was 2 days ago, here in our home. Now, for those who have not followed me for a long time or are brand spanking new to my channels, the building I live in, we don't necessarily consider it haunted. There are many people that consider it cursed, but there is definitely activity here. Now, most of the activity, as we've been here for a couple years now, I have realized is connected to the land spirits to this particular piece of land. Now, I'm originally from the East Coast. About 4 years ago, we moved out here to the West Coast. I'm now in the Pacific Northwest, Western Washington specifically, and there is just a different breed of land spirit out here than back in the East. But more often than not, if we have any occurrences of activity here, more often than not, it is these land spirits not being happy with the situation here. To be perfectly honest, I can't say that I blame them. So the building that we live in was finished being built and opened to take in residents in December of 2020. We moved in April of 2021. And from early on, there was just a lot of things. The reason why we kind of joke and say that maybe this land or this building are cursed is because there's been a lot of really weird things that have happened here repeatedly. When we first moved in, the fire alarms would go off all of the time. The first floor flooded numerous times. We've had issues with the electricity. We'll wake up in the morning and during the night, the breakers have flipped. Now, mind you that nothing is running during the night. There's no reason. There's no rhyme or reason for why these breakers are tripping in the middle of the night. We don't know. We don't have a clue. Now, we do suspect that corners were cut and the construction of this building was rushed. We highly suspect that the electric is not up to code. We know that the ventilation in this building is not up to code. We found out that the septic system was apparently not up to code. They installed a septic system that was not big enough to handle a building with this many units. And you would think that, like, all of these things should have been caught during the construction process, during the permitting process, all of that. But none of it was. And because I'm not versed in that stuff, I don't know how much of the things that we have experienced here are because of the rushed subpar construction and how much of it is due to the land spirits not being happy about this building being here or the way some of the people here behave. Now, to be clear, I don't think that this building or this piece of land is actually cursed. I think that there are land spirits here that do get pissed off and they do take action to display their displeasure, but I think that a lot of the instances that happened that made people start saying that this place is cursed, I think really are explained more often than not by mundane things. But as time has gone on, there is the potential that far more than the land spirits are here now. As I said, the building was finished and opened in December of 2020. We moved in spring of 2021. And between then and now, quite a few people have actually died in this building. Now, I do not know who passed or why. So I know that there are people no longer living here, and I can theorize as to who maybe a couple of the ones who might have passed away would have been. But management won't talk about who it was, and I was not close with any of the ones who did pass, so I don't know the who's, whys, or an exact number. I just know that a staff member and I were talking, and they disclosed to me that there have been numerous deaths here since the opening. So from time to time, we'll have something happen in our apartment. Usually it's not a big deal. Usually we'll catch a glimpse of something, or something will get moved, something small like that. I'll do a cleanse of our space, and then everything's right as rain for a while. I have also sometimes left offerings for the land spirits when I felt that that was appropriate, or I felt called to do that. But generally speaking, any activity we get is more on the subtle side. I do a cleansing and it's done. But about 2 days ago, we had something interesting happen. And I've been meaning to do a reading. And I know the title says communicating with, our resident spirits. But I'm actually going to, and you'll see when we do the reading, I'm actually going to be communicating with my spirit guides and ancestors, because I don't want to directly communicate with whatever it was from the incident the other day. Because if it's gone, I don't want to draw it back here. Because I have cleansed and things, but I hadn't had a chance to do a reading. So for today's purposes, since I've already cleansed and there hasn't been another incident since the other day, I don't want to take a chance and call back whatever it was. So I'm going to connect with my spirit guides and my ancestors and try to get some insight into maybe who it was, what they wanted, why they did what they did. But that's what we're going to do in today's video. And that's part of why I didn't know which channel to put this on, whether to put it on my channel for readings or whether to put it on the paranormal channel, because really it's both. And that's why I may cross post it. So here's what happened the other day. I was sitting here at my reading space doing a reading for a client. And my boys were sitting in the room on their own electronics, keeping quiet, doing their own thing, because it's summer. So, they're home while I'm doing readings for clients. And I had asked previously for my husband to bring home his Ryobi speaker from work, because I had some meditation music that I was kind of wanting to play just during the day to chill, and I wanted it to kind of fill the space. But the speakers on my laptop are crap. So certain things are just way too quiet. You can't just play them on my laptop and have them fill the space. So I had asked if he would bring that home so that I could use that when I wanted to do this. And he brought it home. Well, it was kind of in my way. So I had put it, or actually I think I had my oldest son put it on this chair that we have in the kitchen area. I had him put the speaker on there. And he didn't have it hanging off the chair or anything. It was solidly on there. And if you have never seen these Ryobi speakers, they are a decent size and they are pretty hefty. This is something that, if you're carrying this as you're walking down the street and someone tries to mug you, you use it as a weapon, because it'll knock a mother out. Anyhow, so this thing is pretty hefty. It's not something that can easily be knocked off. And it was squarely, if you will, on the chair. So my boys are playing their video games on their respective devices in the room with me. I'm at my table, my reading space, recording a reading for a client. And all of a sudden, I hear this loud bang and thud behind me in the area of the kitchen. So I stop my recording, I turn around, I'm like, what the heck? Because my boys are nowhere near the kitchen. And so we look out to the kitchen and we realize that, so let's just say from my perspective, if I were to turn around right now and look towards my kitchen, okay, the chair that had the speaker on it is to the left of the kitchen area. and the dishwasher and the sink and the counter and everything are to the right. So the speaker was yeeted from the chair over to the floor almost the whole way to the dishwasher on the opposite side. I mean, it was yeeted, and it didn't like fall and roll. There was one thud / bang, and so it merely like flew off the chair and landed where it was. And physics, if something had vibrated it to the point that like it had vibrated on the chair and then got to the point where the part hanging off the chair was too heavy, it would have just fallen down. And there might have been 2 thuds because it would have fallen on its side. And then for it to get in the position that it was in, it would have had to have like hit on its side and then fallen over again. But even that would not have gotten it that far across the room. And we all know because we saw the speaker sitting there, it was squarely on the chair. And nothing was going on. Like, nobody was jumping around like a fool. Nobody, like, there's nothing that could have, like, vibrated that off of there. And again, physics, if it had vibrated off of the chair, it would not have wound up in the position it was where it was. My boys and I just knew that it didn't fall off of there by accident or some mundane reason. There was a spirit that yeeted it off the chair. So, of course, I've done my cleansing. My first gut reaction is, one of the land spirits isn't happy and they're showing their displeasure. But it didn't feel like that. And that's why I had wanted to do a reading on the topic and see what I got out of the reading. So that's what we're going to do. I have some incense burning. I've already cleansed the space, but I do have some incense burning, and we're going to cleanse the space again with sound, just to make sure everything's clear before we connect with spirit guides and ancestors, to try to use the tarot to ask a few questions. Now, I'm going to probably do a video about this on my Spirit Tarot YouTube channel at some point. It's on my list. But even though I am a medium, I do really like to use my pendulums and my cards to communicate with spirits. And like I said, that is a topic unto itself. I know some people are like, well, if you're a medium, why do you use the tools? Because they just help. They make things more efficient, more streamlined. Basically, I am a crotchety old Gen X person who does not have the patience to play charades anymore with spirits. And so to get more direct and to the point and to try to just weed out things, I just like to do that. But there's a lot more that goes into it, but that's its own video. So I thought that what I would do is just record me doing the readings, the card pulls, and the pendulum for the questions I have that I just want to ask about this incident, so that you guys can kind of see what I do and how things work and see what answers I get. And then if anything more comes of this, I'll do update videos. I don't know that there will. Like I said, usually what happens is we get one of the land spirits, kind of shows their presence. I do a cleansing, maybe leave an offering, and then we're good for a while. And that could be the case here too, but this one just felt a little bit different. So I wanted to do a reading. Now, I am not going to show the cards. Usually on my readings channel, I take a picture of like the full layout and leave that up on the screen. I'm not going to do that with this for 2 reasons. One, I'm going to be doing the reading in a way that I'm going to be constantly shuffling the cards back into the decks. So it kind of is hard to take a picture of the final spread. And the second reason is that one of the decks that I'm using is not YouTube friendly anymore, because I'm going to be using the Deviant Moon Tarot, which has pointy, odd boobs, and YouTube has been getting more weird about nudity in art on tarot cards. So we're just not going to tempt fate. And then I'm also using the Midnight Magic Tarot as well. Now, just a disclaimer before I begin, I am a trained professional. Do not try this at home if you do not know what you are doing. There are unsavory things that go bump in the night, and you don't want to be connecting to those with your cards. This can be done safely. I communicate with spirits all the time in my readings, but I've been a medium all my life. I have trained, I have taken classes, I have read books, I have years and years of experience. So only do this if you know what you're doing. There's a lot that you're not seeing, like how I prepare to do this, and you won't see how I cleanse and ground and everything afterwards. So only attempt this at home if you know what you're doing, or if you are under the supervision of someone who knows what they are doing. All right, that's enough chit chat. Let's get started. I'm going to ring the singing bowl 3 times. Just make sure the energy is completely clear before we begin. All right, beautiful. So again, as I said, I do not want to take any chance of bringing whatever it was back into our space. So I am connecting with my spirit guides and ancestors and spirit to ask these questions and get this information. I am not communicating directly with whatever it was that yeeted the speaker off the seat. So I'm going to start with my pendulum. I just want to know, basically what I want to know is, I want to know if it was a land spirit or if it was an earthbound spirit that yeeted the speaker. So we're going to start off with, was the spirit that knocked the speaker off of the chair a land spirit? And I'm using the pendulum here, and we've got a no, which is kind of what I suspected. I didn't think that it was one of the land spirits. All right, so let's ask the spirit that knocked the speaker off. And in case you're wondering if anybody, I did my usual routine pendulum setup before the start of the video, asking which ways yes, which ways no, but I'm using my pendulum with the pendulum board. So in case anybody's going, hey, she didn't check in with her pendulum first, I did before the video. All right, so spirit guides, ancestors, and spirit. So now let's ask the pendulum and the spirit guides, ancestors, spirit, the spirit that is responsible for knocking the speaker off the chair. Is that someone who passed away in this building? And we got a very clear yes. So it's someone who has passed away here. It was not one of the land spirits. And now we need to ask some follow-up questions. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a card just from the court cards from the Midnight Magic Tarot to ask who this spirit was/is. Now, I have never, I don't know if it would work or not. There is that site supposedly where you can look up to see if anybody's ever died at your address. I think you have to pay for that though. I'm not sure. I'm just going to go ahead and collect this information from the cards. At this moment in time, I have no way to confirm whatever comes through in the cards. But I may try to look into that later, but I don't like to do that beforehand because I don't want to color my reading with that information. Okay, so a little ASMR for you as I shuffle the cards. And like I said, we're going to draw a card from the courts. This feels right. We've got the King of Wands. Now, the King of Wands could be someone who was a fire sign in life. Most likely, this card leans the heaviest towards Sagittarius, but it could also be an Aries or a Leo. And again, it could be their sun sign, but it could also be their moon or rising. It depends on what dominated their chart if we're going by astrological correspondences. and I always talk about this because I didn't realize until I was an adult and got more into astrology, I'm a Taurus sun sign, which suits me to an extent, but there were certain things about me or about that sun sign that didn't necessarily fit. And it wasn't until I had a full astrological birth chart done and found out that both my rising and my moon sign are Cancer, and that the moon dominates my chart, that I then understood that those were actually, even though the sun sign is what most people know what their sun sign is, and what we look at other people and we're like, oh, they're such a Gemini, oh, they're such an Aries, and that for some people like myself, the sun sign actually takes a back seat to other placements. And I'm bringing that up because, I don't know if I'll be able to find this information at all, ever, about any of the people who passed here, but we're leaning towards a fire sign, or a very prominent fire sign placement in this person's chart. Now, I do get the sense, just feeling what is coming through, the King card for me, when I use the court cards like this, the gender of the spirit does not have to coincide with the gender of the card if I am using a gendered deck. But I feel like it does in this case. I felt a masculine energy at the time, and as I'm pulling this card asking who the spirit was, I am again feeling, or being made to feel by my spirit guides and ancestors, that this was a person who was male, identified as male, but it's a very masculine energy. All right, so now, just to see what we get, I'm going to ask for the cause of passing for this person, because we know it was a man who lived here. The fact that it's a king leans towards the person was older, which makes sense. And to be perfectly honest, I think I may know who this particular spirit is. If we're talking about somebody who resided here, there is a resident that was a very creepy older gentleman that a lot of people had issues with. And he was here for quite a while, and then I noticed he was just gone. Nobody said anything about him moving out. And to be quite honest, I kind of suspected, when I realized that I didn't see him, I kind of suspected that he may have passed away. He had a lot of health issues. So let's just ask what the cause of passing was for the spirit. I don't want to, even though I had the strong remembrance of that person and kind of suspect that it's him, I want to put that aside. I want to try to be as objective as possible and just let information come through. I don't want to try to make it fit him. And the King of Wands can be someone who can be, not always, but the King of Wands can be someone who's very manipulative, because the King of Wands is very good at talking people into doing things. And for some people that have that King of Wands energy, it means just that they're really good at motivating people, because motivation is sort of a positive type of manipulation. But the flip side of that is that they are a con artist. They talk people into things that are in the King of Wands' best interest and for the benefit of the King of Wands, but is detrimental to the other person. So that's the flip side of that, and that would definitely fit with this particular person that I'm thinking of. But again, I want to try to keep that on the back burner, like that's a possibility, but I don't want to just be like, yep, it's him. All right. Okay. So the cause of death is drug addiction. So probably an overdose, more than likely, since the cause of death is drug addiction. It could also be complications from drug addiction, and the way I use this card, drug addiction, it means drugs or alcohol, because alcohol is a drug. So it could have been an overdose, or it could have been like cirrhosis of the liver. Now, I have a separate card for that, so usually when this card comes out, it's not like cirrhosis of the liver specifically. Not even necessarily alcoholism specifically, but it is a possibility with this card that it's some form of either actively they overdosed, they drank too much, or they had some complication due to their addiction. It could have been they used a dirty needle and got an infection or a disease. It could be any of that. All right, I have the Deviant Moon Tarot now, and this is really the big question that I want to ask, because for me, honestly, who it is kind of secondary to what I want to know. I wanted to know if it was the land spirit or someone who passed here. So we know it was someone who passed here. These details to try to identify who, like I said, I don't have a good way at the moment to confirm those. If I ever am able to match that, like if I'm ever able to find like who has passed away in this building, and if I'm able to line that up with somebody, I will do an update and let y'all know, but I don't know if that's even possible to do, but I will try. I'll look into it. But that's kind of secondary. What I want to know is why they were making their presence known that day. So I want to know why ancestors, spirit guides, and spirit, why was that particular departed spirit, why were they making their presence known? Try to give you a little more ASMR with the shuffling of the cards. I'm not very good at ASMR for the shuffling of the cards because honestly, I with my connective tissue disorders and everything, I'm not the best at shuffling, like in a fancy, like I get the job done, but I'm not good at showmanship when it comes to shuffling. So I'm just going to start, when I feel ready, I'm just going to start drawing cards and see what we get. I feel like this card wants to come out, which is the Moon. I have a feeling as to how I should interpret that, but I want to get more context, more cards on the table before I just start going. I think we're going to do 5 cards. That's what's feeling right. We've got the 9 of Cups. We've got the Ace of Wands. We've got the Hermit. And we have the 3 of Cups. So this is very interesting. We've had, and I didn't mention this earlier, but we've had something happen a couple of times now that I'm not sure if it's spirit activity or what. But twice now we've gotten calls from management saying that there had been a noise complaint about us. However, the first time, honestly, we had only been home for maybe 15 minutes. Literally, 3 of us came in and sat down, and 1 of us came in and went straight to the bathroom. So there was no noise. Like, we weren't even being loud. We had been out doing something. We were all tired, hot, and exhausted, and we all just kind of sat down and were just quiet. Like, we didn't even have the TV on. It was silent here. And when they called, we're like, not us. Don't know what you're talking about. Just got home. Haven't made a peep. Now, at that time, there were neighbors to the one side of us who are still here that do have a tendency to get into fights and arguments and be loud and carry on and things like that. So we had kind of chalked it up to it was probably maybe them making noise like right before we got home. So we didn't hear them because it was over and done with by the time we got home. And we just kind of chalked it up as that. Then a week or 2 later, and I can't remember now, we were all in bed. Both the kids were asleep. My husband was drifting off. I was on the Switch, but I didn't have any sound going because I was just going through the Switch store looking at games. So, like, literally, I'm the only one awake. There's no sound in the room because there's no TV on. And we get a call asking if we're moving furniture around, that the people below us had complained that we were moving furniture. Again, I would have chalked it up to the neighbors, but honestly, I didn't hear them. So I don't, like, you know what I mean? Like, if there was noise that somebody below us was hearing, you would think that I would hear it. If it was coming from our floor, you would think that I would have heard it. I didn't hear anything. So I was like, I just don't know what to tell you. Like, my husband had to get up out of bed, answer the phone because management was calling, and it was like 11:30 midnight when they called. And he's like, you woke all of us up, and that we were not moving furniture, making noise, doing a damn thing. And so now I kind of wonder if, well, I mean, it could be, since we know that there's construction issues, maybe it's bad pipes that they're hearing. But again, I would think if they were hearing it that I would hear, but maybe not necessarily. So I don't know. I have not figured out what the people below us are supposedly hearing. And the first phone call that we got, that we had literally just come home, I don't know who it was that complained about noise. I also don't know, like, either of those times if they just called us specifically or if they called, like, all the apartments in our area. Like, are you making noise? Are you making noise? Like, I have no clue what they did. So the thing is, I don't doubt that whoever it was heard something, but I had kind of been leaning towards it must be something like sound must be carrying from somewhere else and they think it's from us, or they just think it's from, like, our area of the floor. So, you know, I don't know. I don't know the new neighbor on the other side of us, and I don't talk to the ones that get into the fights all the time. So it's not like I can ask either of those and be like, hey, are you getting phone calls about noise too? I don't know. And when I did mention it to one of our other neighbors down the hall, who he is actually a caretaker for a few people that live in our building. And so he is back and forth by our apartment all the time. And he's like, you guys don't make noise. Like, who the hell would complain that you were making noise? Because you don't. So all of this because we do have neighbors now that are directly across from us. It's new neighbors. And they have some children that they let be wild and woolly and completely feral and unkempt. Now, as you can figure out from the fact that I keep referencing my boys, I have children, the youngest of which has a diagnosis and sometimes can get a little loud, but we try to work through that quickly to get him calmed down, quiet down, and everything. So I am not a stranger to the noise of children. I generally have patience when it comes to the noises that children make. I understand that, you know, most parents are just doing the best they can and that, you know, kids are going to be kids. However, the adults associated with these children, they do not manage these children, supervise these children. These children just run wild, literally screaming their heads off, jumping up and down in the hallway. They will actually put them out of the apartment into the hallway and just have them playing video games and carrying on and being loud. And again, like jumping up and down enough that you can feel the vibrations through the floor into our apartment. But they are, I mean, there's a lot of banging, there's a lot of doors. They are probably the noisiest people we have ever had on this floor. Like, bar none. In the little over 2 years we've been here, they have to be the noisiest people we've ever had on our floor. To which I had better never get a call about us making noise again with the way that they are allowed to carry on. But that's neither here nor there. The reason I'm bringing all of this up is because the reason that spirit was making their presence known is because they are not happy about the new neighbors across the hall. They are not down for these kids. We've got the hermit here too. They want quiet, they want peace, they want left alone. Again, I don't want to presume it's this guy that I remember being here, but he was a old curmudgeon, dirty old man. He did not like kids. He did not like kids making noise. He didn't like anybody making noise. He was like the whole get off my lawn stereotype times infinity. He was someone that those of us who have kids here very often would not like want our kids to be around him. Like he was the kind of guy that, like, if you saw him coming, you would cross to the other side of the road, because that's just the vibe he had. He was not a pleasant person. He was not nice. He got into altercations with other residents here. He was a very dirty old man. There were a lot of complaints about him being inappropriate with women here. Now, I don't know of any instances of him being accused of being inappropriate with children, nor did I ever see him being inappropriate with children. I did see him being inappropriate with grown-ass women. So I know that that is not just rumor, because I saw that with my own eyes. He was a dirty old man. He was a dirty old man with me. I saw him be a dirty old man with other women as well. But I also knew, because I had overheard him, going in and out of the building. He'd be outside smoking or what have you. And I would hear him make comments about kids and how he didn't like kids and he didn't like the noise and everything. And that's what's coming through in this card. He wants to be hidden with that moon card that wanted to come out. He wants to be hidden. He wants to, for the most part, just do his thing in peace, as peaceful as it can be, because the fact that he was here likely means he is an earthbound spirit. So he wants to be hidden. He wants to be left alone. He wants peace and quiet and stillness. And the new neighbors across the hall are always carrying on. There's a lot of mostly merriment, but sometimes those kids will just scream their heads off. They will scream bloody murder. He's not about that. What he wants is peace and quiet. And he wants to be hidden, but at the same time, he is so pissed off about the noise and all the goings on over there that he, even though he wants to remain hidden for the most part, he wanted to make his displeasure known, because he is pissed and he is tired of it, and they are interrupting his peace and his quiet and his just going about his earthbound existence. So if we're not the ones making all the noise, why is he making his presence known to us? It's because there are those of us in our apartment, myself and my oldest in particular, who are going to notice. We're going to pick up on his energy. We're going to know that it wasn't just the speaker falling off. He's just venting his frustration, basically, to people who can detect where the frustration is coming from. So now I want to ask Spirit, just to sort of wind up. We know why he's here. We have an idea of who it is. But I want to ask my spirit guide, Spirit, the ancestors, what the best course of action for me here is. And so, we're going to gather up these cards that we already have, and we're going to shuffle them back into the deck. Because I want, if there's any sort of theme or that, I want it to be able to show itself. So we're gonna put those back in the deck and shuffle and ask spirit guides, ancestors, and spirit what the best course of action is. So I want to give this a good shuffle to get those cards incorporated back into the deck. We've got Justice. I think 3 cards are all we need, honestly. The 5 of Pentacles and the 9 of Swords. Basically, with the 9 of Swords, it's saying I shouldn't really worry about it. Keep my space, my apartment cleansed and clear. Ultimately what we would like to see is for the spirit to cross over. However, spirits don't always willingly cross over. If this spirit would make his presence known again to me, I could always try to work with that spirit to get them to cross over. But I feel like this particular spirit would be very resistant to that. I feel like not only should I not worry about it, but this card shows that they have anxiety about crossing over themselves. They're worried that there might be some sort of punishment or negative consequences that they will have to reap if they were to actually cross over because they did not so great things in their life. Now, I don't want to presume that it was this old man again, possibility, but I don't want to latch all the way onto that. So, it could be anything. It could be something that maybe they only perceive as something that they deserve to be punished for. Maybe if we knew what it was, we would be like, oh, that's silly. You don't need to be punished for that. I don't know, but they're worried about punishment, and so they're resistant to crossing over. They don't, as a general rule, like they were angry and they wanted to show their frustration, and that's why they made their presence known the other day with eating the speaker. But by and large, they just want to watch from the background, the goings on here, the people coming and going, and they just kind of want to do their own thing and be left alone. They just kind of want to watch in the background and just chill. But with Justice and the Five of Pentacles and the Nine of Swords, to me, what this is all saying is this spirit does not really want to cross over. They are afraid to cross over. They are afraid that there will be consequences. And so really what they want is they want to leave everybody alone, and they just want to be left alone. And so, that's what I'm going to honor for right now, unless I encounter this spirit again and feel that there is some sort of issue that I need to take stronger action. I'm just going to keep cleansing, and I'm just going to let him do his thing. I'm going to do mine thing. And, we are all supposed to cross over. There is no, how can I explain this? If we do bad things, yes, we are going to have to come to terms with that. We are going to have to take ownership of that. But there is no torture or anything in the afterlife for the bad things that you have done. And that could be a whole episode unto itself. And if you believe otherwise, that is entirely your prerogative. You do you. But this is what I have learned from a lifetime of working with spirits and spirit. So he doesn't need to be worried about that. Basically, he's punishing himself by making himself stay earthbound and have to deal with the neighbors across the hall, just as I do. But it was basically just they were being so off the chain that day that he couldn't take it anymore. And so he sort of acted out, made his presence known. But my guides in spirit are like, you know what, for at least for right now, just leave well enough alone. If he's not bothering you, don't bother him. Just let it be. Just keep your space clear. I'd be really interested to find out if it is the person that I suspect that it might be. But here's the thing. I mean, I can try to see if I can track down that site and see if it's free for typing in your address and seeing anyone who's passed away there. But as far management has turned over so many different times. We've been here a little over 2 years, and I think we're on our 8th manager. So there's nobody, the maintenance guys new, there's nobody here now that was here when we moved in, and I'm not sure if any of the management the maintenance or anything that are here now were here long enough ago that they would know the person that I'm thinking of. Also, turnover of residents here is extremely high as well. So I only know of one apartment here that those people have been here as long as us. Between us and that particular apartment, we are the people who have been here the longest. So I'm not sure if anyone who is here now that I talk with would know the person in question. But I will try. I'll try to do some digging, see if there's a way online maybe that I can find out. There is someone who used to work for the company that owns this building, who comes back around to visit once in a while. If I run into them, I might inquire with them. I'm sure they'll think that I'm crazy and very odd for bringing up, people dying in the building and who has and hasn't. But if I happen to run into them and I can get them alone for a second to talk about that, I will try. And if I do find out anything, like I said, I will let you know. But so that's what happened. We, had a little bit of activity, and as I suspected, it wasn't the normal land spirit activity. But now we know it's someone who passed here. They're not happy about the current shenanigans on our floor, and they just were venting their frustration. So let me know if you found this interesting, if you'd like me to do more videos like this as things happen. But let me know in the comments down below, how you felt about this video, what your thoughts are. Would you like to see me do more videos along this line, or maybe do some readings in some supposedly haunted locations? I'm not quite sure how that would work, because some of the ones I know here, it would be pretty awkward to go in and sit down for lunch and just start recording a podcast about the ghosts in the room and reading tarot. Some people might frown on that, but I mean, if you're interested in it, I'll see what I can work out. But like I said, let me know in the comments down below. If you've enjoyed this, please give the video a thumbs up, because it really helps. And if you haven't already, please subscribe. And until I see you again, stay creepy, and blessings to you wherever your journey finds you.